In this video, I'm going to tackle why your website messaging might not be clicking and what you can do about it with a couple of examples. If you don't know me, my name is Blake Emmel. I run a business called PageStare.com. I've helped companies like Athena and Veed and many, many others to write copy, work with landing pages. I've done hundreds upon hundreds of landing page audits as well and improved conversions significantly for a lot of brands. So happy to chat through here some ideas on messaging and copy on a website and why this just really isn't converting or leading to anything for you. So let's dive into a couple examples here. All right, now let me know if this sounds familiar. You're going through your website or you see someone else's website and it looks like this, right? It's technically optimized, it's fine, but you read through the copy and the story and the messaging and you get a whole lot of meh. You don't really know what you're reading. Optimize your data stack, maximize your data investments. I don't know. I can't tangibly understand what that's meaning at all. It's super abstract. It seems like it's clear because it's short, but it's not actually clear because it doesn't tell me the who, what, where, when, why of much of anything. It doesn't speak to any end result, doesn't talk about any transformation, no before and after, no emotional connection. It really doesn't even make a logical appeal to me. Optimize your data stack could mean so many different things. Data, what kind of data? What tools in the stack? What does optimize mean? Are you optimizing for speed, for impact, for power? Like whenever all these things as separate, disparate elements, they don't really tell me a whole lot. So that's first and foremost in the messaging. It's not telling me anything, but as you go along, an exercise that I like to do is just read the headlines, nothing else. If you take away all the paragraph text, which a lot of people browsing websites will do, they'll just read headlines and skim through. Does it still tell me some kind of story? Does it give me more context? If we do this on a site like this, optimize your data stack. Alteryx unlocks generative AI in enterprises. See the Alteryx AI platform in action. Analytics at the speed of F1. Okay, so you've got all these disparate elements where it's talking about the product. Then up here, it's like trying to make an emotional appeal. It's trying to talk about the value and lead with the result, the thing you get at the end. Doesn't do that very effectively. Then it mixes in this F1 example, which I'm not sure like fits a ton, although this is kind of a case study. So sure, that's fine. And then you go back to features, and it's just this big blob of a non-flowing non-story. So you're wondering why your messaging isn't hitting. Well, it is a little bit different for something super enterprise like this, right? You don't have to be a storyteller in the enterprise. You can cut to the chase a little bit, but this doesn't even do that. This doesn't really tell me much of anything. If my headline, like I can touch it, it has texture, I can visualize it in my mind immediately, what it looks like or what it does for me, then it's probably a good headline, even if it's not perfect, even if it doesn't follow the right framework or whatever. If I can visualize some kind of outcome or some benefit of it, it's probably doing a pretty decent job. But this really isn't. Now, if we switch over to a couple of examples, I want to show you one example that does a good job on the story side. And then I want to show you an example that kind of brings all of these elements together in terms of messaging, a story, plus it's just well organized and it's clear. So, a good example of telling a story through messaging is Intercom. Now, I will say up front, I do not believe that this site is perfect. A lot of people talk through this redesign like it's awesome, it's the new wave, it's the new design, and the copy's great. I don't think the copy's great. I think the copy tells a story though. If you go through here, you see the new age of customer service is AI first. So they're positioning themselves. You can have all kinds of different headlines. You can have a value driven headline where you just really clearly say, hey, this is what you get. You can have a story driven headline that's like, meet Sally. She accomplished this thing, makes it more personal. You can have a positioning headline like the new age of customer service is AI first. You can have an outcome focused one. Usually you're going to see numbers and percentages in those. They're going to say, this is the result you're going to get. All those can be viable. This is a positioning one. And as you go through, you notice they shifted everything to be a positioning exercise. So their messaging is positioning. It's talking about how they're shifting to AI. Even their imagery is going through that as well. Intercom's the only complete AI first customer service platform. You can see how it integrates across all these different things. So you got some features copy there. Then you've got this open letter, which is a really nice touch for storytelling. I won't read that. And then you go back to the story, AI first customer service for these people. And then it dives into even other people. And then tools for support team. So you kind of get the story. Then you get the typical social proof. That's not really part of the story necessarily. And then you go back to positioning. We're leading the competition in every category. And again, this is based on AI, like their positioning is AI. So if you're looking at a good example of what's a page that tells a story, this is a great one. Now, the problem with this, again, is cool, but like, what am I getting? This is talking so much about itself that it's not actually appealing to me as a customer. Now, Intercom, again, has moved way up market over time. It used to be just like everything, a startup for people that had no money. And then it moves up market. And now it's pretty much strictly for people that can afford hundreds of dollars a month, if not more. It's bigger contracts. So they don't need to speak the same way. But you still get this sense that it is absolutely more about Intercom than it is about me. So that's the other part of why this doesn't click for me. It does a part of that equation well, where if I do the headline exercise and I read through, it does tell some kind of story. It flows through. It gives me some context on what their point of view is, which is huge. Not enough companies have a point of view. Intercom does. The problem as I go through this is it's so much about Intercom. It's we all the time. Like, you're not a French waiter. We don't want to talk about we all the time. You want to talk about me, the customer, you. So even in the enterprise, huge believer in second person, you, your, yours, all that good stuff. Don't get a ton of that here until you get to this point, and I really like this, but again, this is still a lot of our, we, us language. So something to be cognizant of. Now, going to an example where this actually works, where it pulls it all together. There should be no surprise is BaseCamp. You've seen it on my sidebar here, so you've known this was coming. And this is an example that continuously gets pointed back to, but it works. And honestly, I'll say again, I don't think this is a perfect page necessarily. There's no such thing as a perfect page, but I know this thing converts and I know it's converted for a really long time. And there are a couple core reasons why. Now, this animation style, not really my deal. I would much rather see the product tangibly right away, but the copy, the story they tell, and for the most part, the imagery as well, aside from a few instances, is super on point. So let's do the exercise. Refreshingly simple project management. It tells me exactly what it is, and it kind of has a point of view. It frames it as this is not going to be like Asana, basically, is how I read this. It's going to be a little different. It's more simple. There's not as much to it. And that's what we like. And then you get these little animations that kind of move that story along. But look how the story flows through. Leave the grind behind, glide through projects instead. So now we get a kind of like a value based or an outcome based without the numbers. But this is saying if you use Basecamp, the project management stuff that used to be tedious, monotonous, a grind is not really going to exist anymore. Your projects are going to be the main thing. You're just going to go through your projects instead. You're going to work on stuff. To me, this has a lot of subtext on this is going to make it so that you don't have to think about your project management. So you get this story of, how you get to focus on your work, how every project is way simpler with Basecamp. Now you go through the rest of the story, not everything under the sun, just the stuff to get things done. So it's again focusing on a point of view that we're not doing everything. That's kind of the whole thing. We're not trying to be Slack building every single feature. We're not trying to be Asana building every feature. We do simple things really well. If that's for you, join us. And you can see that the copy is pretty robust. A lot of people may not read all this stuff, but again, another thing they do well is highlighting the core messages that they want seen in the case that people don't read line by line. The bolding helps there. The hierarchy of the copy helps there. This is important stuff. A well-run company is part of the package too. Okay, so that now we're talking through company-wide impact, expanding to the impact there. And the type of people that join are savvy teams looking for a big advantage. Now, that's a little vague. Like from Basecamp standards, I actually would expect something a little bit more tangible because they're usually not super abstract. They are pretty hands on and textured with their writing. But overall, the messaging here tells a story, compels me. It's super copy heavy. There's not tons of imagery on the page aside from just showing some of the core things. And then one final thing is this is how it starts, but this is how it progresses. And you get to see the before and after. Another way of doing this that Campfire, if you go to Campfire, I think it's campfire.com, they do this pretty well. I can pull this up actually. Of course. Cool. All right, we're not going to do that right now. Campfire has a before and after of what the process looks like before using a tool like that. So it's not even competing with other project management. It's competing with like trying to do all of it by yourself. That's what it looks like. And then with Campfire, what it looks like. So it's almost a similar type of thing to this section right here. But you can see now, okay, so the core elements we're talking through is, are you telling some kind of story? Are you having a unique point of view? And if you read just the headlines, does it flow through somewhat to tell a story, to compel somebody emotionally? Because people buy emotionally before they buy logically, right? And then the second point is, do you actually organize that information together so that it's super easy to consume? And Intercom does not do that. BaseCamp does both of these things really well. Hopefully, this gives you an idea of what to look for in your website. As next steps, I would encourage you to go to your landing page right now and just like hand write out only the H1s and H2s, just the main headlines across your site. Write them in order, and then I want you to say them out loud. Now, they don't have to flow perfectly from one to another. That's probably not a good expectation, but do they kind of flow as a story? Do they build on each other? Do they cover all of the core objections and things that people really want to know? Are you appealing emotionally through that story? Chances are probably not. You probably have some room to grow. And so when you get to that point, action step number two is, how would you reorganize what's currently on the page? What would you subtract and what would you add? Write that out again and patch that stuff together. You can do it in Figma, handwritten, in a Miro board, Google Doc, whatever works for you. Get it on paper, whether it's physical or digital, and actually visualize out, what's the story I'm trying to tell and the point of view that I want to get across, and how does that need to be organized so that I'm tackling the who, what, where, when, and why, or the core objections that my ideal customer actually cares about. Now, if we go back to this, now hopefully you can look at this in a different light and say, this isn't telling me anything. There's zero story here. It is very self centered copy on this entire page. The structure, it doesn't flow. It doesn't really have to be structured this way. Like if I took something out, you wouldn't even notice. It wouldn't break the whole thing. You want that cohesion so that if you take elements out, it actually breaks the page. You want every element to be that important. So there are your action steps. Hopefully you got something awesome out of this video. If you did, please subscribe, like this video, comment below. Let me know what you think and what you'd like me to tackle next. Make sure to follow me on Twitter as well at Hey Blake. And I do run a company called pagetier.com for anyone interested in basically having the copywriting side done for you, especially for SaaS and agencies. I deliver fresh copy for landing pages, email sequences, ad groups, video scripts, whatever you need every 48 hours. So pretty big requests every 48 hours, 3 to 4 times per week. You will get full copy delivery. Let me know if that's interesting as well. And we'll see you in the next video.